Now we shall discuss principle of effective communication skill which are useful for teacher, particularly in the classroom. For effective communication skill, the teacher should follow principles of communication skill. They are: number one, the principle of clarity. The idea or message to be communicated should be well planned and clearly identified. It should be worded in such a way that the receiver understands the same thing which the sender wants to convey. There should be no ambiguity in the message. It should be kept in mind that the words do not speak themselves, but the speaker gives them the meaning. If the message is clear, it would evoke an appropriate response from the receiver. Now, the second principle of effective communication skill is principle of timeliness. This principle states that all messages should be transmitted at the proper time so that the decisions and action can be taken in time, and also it helps in implementing plans. Any delay in communicating message serves to pursue except to make them merely historical document, as it lose its importance after some time. Now, the third principle of effective communication skill is principle of consistency. This principle states that communication should always be consistent with the plans, program and objective of the teaching learning process and not in conflict with them. If the messages and communications are in conflict with the plan and program, then there will be a confusion in the minds of learners and they may not implement them properly. Now, the next principle of effective communication skill is principle of attention. In order to make communication effective, the receiver's attention should be drawn towards the message communicated. Each one is different in behavior, sentiments and emotions, which determine the degree of attention. The acts of a teacher also draw the attention of students and they may follow what they observe. For example, if a teacher is very punctual in coming to the college, then students will also develop such habits. It is said that actions speak louder than words. Now, the next principle of effective communication skill is principle of feedback. One of the most important principles of effective communication skill is principle of feedback. The communicator must have feedback information from the recipient to know whether the recipient has understood the message in the same sense in which the sender has meant it, or whether the student agree or disagree with the contents of message. And the last principle is principle of adequacy. The information communicated should be adequate and complete in all respects. Inadequate information may delay action and create confusion. Inadequate information also affects the efficiency of the receiver. So, adequate information is essential for taking proper decisions and making action plans. These are the basic principles of effective communication skill. These principles, if followed by the teacher, then communication will be more effective. Here, I would like to appeal all. An effective system of communication need to be installed in each educational institution. Now, we shall discuss different types of communication skills. There are three main types of communication skill. Number one, verbal communication, non-verbal communication and written communication. Now, we shall discuss all these types of communication skill in detail. First one is verbal communication. Verbal communication is oral communication. It is the key component in the teaching learning process and interpersonal behavior. Knowing correct language is an important part of communication. The teacher can encourage the student through various verbal expressions which acts as reinforcer by saying fine, good, very good, right, excellent, correct, etc. The teacher can also use verbal expression in the middle of the response by saying carry on, continue, go ahead, etc. The verbal communication include all messages composed of words either spoken or written. Verbal communication can help in building a positive or negative communication climate in the classroom. Now, the second type of communication skill is non-verbal communication. We know action really speaks louder than words. The non-verbal communication is the process of sending and receiving wordless messages by means of facial expression, posture, eye contact, gesture, touch and movement of the neck. We shall discuss different cues of non-verbal communication skill in detail. Now, the first one is facial expression. The facial expressions on the teacher's face vary from situation to situation. Communicating approval, disapproval, anger and so on. These are the example of facial expression. See another example, a serious facial expression might indicate displeasure, whereas smile on the face indicate pleasure. Now, the second type of non-verbal communication is eye contact. Eye contact is particularly important non-verbal skill for teachers because the interpersonal distance between the students and teacher are close. Eye contact opens the channel of communication between two persons. Eye contact can be effective means to make each student feel that he or she is an important member of the class. Now, the third non-verbal communication is gesture. It is another cue of non-verbal communication in which visible body actions communicate particularly messages. Gesture include movement of hands, face or other parts of the body. For example, folded arms across the chest are usually interpreted as defensive or rejection. Receptiveness to idea is often indicated through open palm and hands of the listener, while the absent-minded rhythmic shaking of the feet may indicate boredom. Now, the fourth type of non-verbal communication is touch. Pats or handshake or brief touch on the arm are typically used to convey support or encouragement or acceptance of behavior. It is observed that patting is more effective in bringing about the desired behavioral changes in students. Now, the next type, movement of neck. Some typical movement which have to pay attention to is the slanted neck of the attentive listener, whereas the movement of nod indicate agreement. The sudden turning of the head away from the speaker indicates subtle disagreement. This is about the different types of non-verbal communication skill. Now, the main third type of communication skill is written communication. The written communication is an effective way to reinforce students' learning. Written communication is put in writing or in general in the form of instructions stating goals, formal reports, rules and regulation, etc. Combined with the verbal reinforcement, written communication is an effective way to increase student success. Written communication reduces the possibility of misunderstanding and misinterpretations. These are the main types of communication skill. So, in this session we have discussed number 1, the concept of communication skill, its characteristic, number 3, principles of communication skill and types of communication skill. Thank you very much.